For more on this, let's bring in Layton Beard, the spokesperson for the Automobile Association, and he joins us via our video link. Layton, thank you so much for joining us this evening here on SABC News. And let's start off by getting your reaction to the budget, particularly when it comes to the fuel levy.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously we're very happy that the GFL is not being increased. It's something that we called for earlier this week for the minister not to do that and to consider the implications of doing that on all consumers, not only motorists. And certainly from our point of view, I think we're very happy that the GFL was not increased. It is very good news, and it does provide a measure of relief, although obviously, you know, people aren't necessarily going to feel it because it's not happening. Had it happened, I think the reverse may have been true. People would certainly have felt that impact. But yes, I mean, from our point of view, the fact that the general fuel levy has not increased is very good news.
And why do you think that the minister took this approach? I mean, many would say that he's being careful because we do find ourselves in an election year.
Yeah, I think it has to do with the. I think there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, certainly politics may have played a role in that, but I think the fact that the minister had at his disposal and has now used, you know, a lot of the reserve funding that he announced, you know, may have played a role. The fact that the GFL is already generating a very large amount of money for the fiscus. And I think the minister may have concurred with the AA's position that increasing the GFL may have been counterproductive. So I think there were a number of reasons at play in terms of his decision. What we can say from our point of view is naturally we are very happy that the GFL has not increased. What we would have liked to have seen and what we have been calling for a long time is obviously some movement in terms of reviewing the fuel pricing structure, which we still believe is necessary and something that needs to be done to provide clarity to South Africans on exactly how the fuel pricing mechanism is comprised and whether all the elements that comprise a litre of fuel are necessary. Naturally, after that, all these questions of whether the benefits of the taxes that are collected are being seen by the public. But that's obviously a discussion for another time.
And what reprieve does this give to South Africans now seeing that that fuel levy remains the same?
Yeah, it's such a difficult question to answer because, you know, reprieve is a very strong word. I think the fact that it hasn't been increased means that for now, in February at least, the status quo remains. Indications are that petrol prices, fuel prices, diesel prices are going to increase in March, which would obviously be an extra burden on consumers. I think we need to understand that if the GFL was increased, that would just add to the financial woes that consumers have. And in the sense that that's not going to add to any financial burden is in itself a reprieve. So in that regard, consumers will benefit from the fact that it is not increasing, which naturally is a welcome development.
And seeing the carbon levy as well, the carbon fuel levy increasing, what does that mean for consumers?
Look, I mean, the carbon fuel levy, you know, is obviously a tax that government is collecting as part of its strategy in terms of various policies around the environment and the environmental taxes that it collects. It's increasing by around 31 Rand, and that's, you know, from the 1st of January. It's very significant that you know, government is looking at these other forms of taxation that are coming in. There may be some cause for concern depending on how far that goes. But again, I think the fact that you know, the GFL hasn't increased is good news. Perhaps you know, the payoff is that we do see this increase to the carbon levy.
And what do you think the minister also should have prioritized in this budget speech?
Yeah, again, I think in terms of fuel, which is something that we would be looking at, you know, again, the review of the fuel price is something that we would have liked to have seen. Perhaps more clarity on the issue of e-tolls and what's happening with that, and the discussions of the Gauteng province and how that's all going to play out. We know that the Premier said that e-tolls would absolutely be scrapped by the 31st of March. And I think we were all expecting the Minister of Finance to give more meat to that in his budget speech, which he didn't. And then I think this issue of sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Oh, sorry, I lost you there for a second. I mean, the issue of e-tolls, obviously, the issue of the review of the fuel price, I think, was quite important. And then the issue of what we're going to do in terms of taxes around electric vehicles and how we're tackling e-mobility and the money around that. I think those were issues that certainly I think we would have liked to have seen. I know that there was some mention of that, but perhaps a bit more meat would have been good for that.
Yeah, and I was about to say that I did hear him mentioning something about electric vehicles. But thank you so much for your contributions, Layton. We really do appreciate it here on SABC News. That is Layton Beard, spokesperson for the Automobile Association, saying that something that he would have wanted to hear more on is that issue that we saw as well from the Gauteng government and the Gauteng Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, announcing once again that the e-tolls or the gantries will be switched off on the 1st of March. Also, they are also wanting clarity and reviews of the fuel price.